Today, we're diving into 5 of the most shocking true crime stories ever shared on Reddit. These real-life tales will leave you speechless.
Story 1. The disappearance of a college student. Sarah was the kind of person everyone noticed, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she was genuinely kind. She was a sophomore at a well-known college, majoring in biology, and had dreams of becoming a doctor. Her friends describe her as responsible, focused, and always willing to help others. That's why, when she disappeared, it sent shockwaves to the entire campus. It was a chilly Thursday evening in late October. Sarah had spent most of the day in classes, and then returned to her dorm to change before heading to the library. She told her roommate Megan that she wanted to get a head start on studying for her upcoming midterms. She grabbed her red hoodie, slung her backpack over her shoulder, and left the room around 7:30 p.m. Megan remembered Sarah saying, "Don't wait up, I might be late." But Sarah never made it to the library. When Megan woke up the next morning and saw that Sarah's bed hadn't been slept in, she felt a twinge of worry. At first, she thought maybe Sarah had stayed with a friend or pulled an all-nighter at the library. But when she tried calling Sarah, the call went straight to voicemail. Texts went unanswered. By noon, Megan's concern had turned into panic. Sarah's friends started calling around, but no one had seen or heard from her since the previous evening. Her social media accounts were silent, which was unusual for someone who posted daily updates about her life and studies. By late afternoon, Megan and Sarah's friends went to campus security and reported her missing. The security team took the report seriously and immediately contacted the local police. The investigation began with interviews. Megan told the officers everything she knew about Sarah's plans that night. Other friends described Sarah as someone who would never just disappear without telling anyone. The police checked security footage from the dorm's entrance and saw Sarah leaving at 7:32 p.m., wearing her red hoodie and carrying her backpack. She looked calm, not in a hurry, and there was nothing unusual about her behavior. But after that, the trail went cold. There was no footage of Sarah entering the library, and no one remembered seeing her there. Her student ID hadn't been used to swipe into any campus buildings after she left the dorm. Her bank card hadn't been used, and her phone remained off. As the hours turned into days, the search for Sarah intensified. Flyers with her photo were posted all over campus and the surrounding town. Her family arrived and made emotional pleas on local news stations, begging anyone with information to come forward. The police set up a tip line and followed every lead, but nothing seemed to pan out. Rumors began to swirl. Some students whispered that Sarah had run away, maybe overwhelmed by the pressure of school. Others speculated about a secret boyfriend or a hidden life. But those who knew Sarah best insisted she would never just leave without telling someone. She was too responsible, too connected to her family and friends. The police dug deeper into Sarah's life. They interviewed her professors, classmates, and even checked her online activity. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Her last text message was to Megan, saying, "Heading out now, see you later." There were no signs of depression or trouble at home. A week passed with no new leads. The campus community organized search parties, combing through nearby parks, woods, and abandoned buildings. Volunteers handed out flyers at bus stations and local businesses. The sense of fear and uncertainty grew with each passing day. Then, 3 weeks after Sarah's disappearance, a local hiker made a discovery that would change everything. While walking through a wooded area about 5 miles from campus, he stumbled upon a backpack lying under a pile of leaves. Inside were Sarah's textbooks, her wallet, and her phone. The phone's battery was dead, but otherwise, everything seemed untouched. The police cordoned off the area and began a thorough search. Forensic teams combed the woods for any clues. The discovery of the backpack shifted the investigation's focus. It was clear that Sarah hadn't simply run away. Something had happened to her, and now the police had a new starting point. As the investigation intensified, The community held on to hope, but fear was beginning to set in. What had happened to Sarah? Who could have taken her? And would they ever find her? The discovery of Sarah's backpack brought a new sense of urgency to the investigation. Police scoured the woods for days, searching for any sign of Sarah or clues about what had happened to her. Forensic teams examined the backpack and its contents, hoping for fingerprints, DNA, or anything that could point to a suspect. The area was combed for footprints, tire tracks, or discarded items, but the search turned up little more than a few broken branches and a sense of dread. Attention quickly turned to the people closest to Sarah. Her ex-boyfriend, Jason, was questioned extensively. He had an alibi for the night Sarah disappeared, confirmed by multiple witnesses and security footage from his workplace. The police then focused on Sarah's best friend, Emily, who had been acting strangely since the disappearance. Emily had been quiet, withdrawn, and seemed reluctant to talk to investigators. Detectives noticed inconsistencies in Emily's statements. She claimed she hadn't seen Sarah that evening, but phone records showed several calls between them just before Sarah left the dorm. When confronted with this evidence, Emily broke down and admitted that she and Sarah had argued that night. Emily confessed she'd followed Sarah after their fight, hoping to apologize, but lost track of her in the darkness. She insisted she had nothing to do with Sarah's disappearance, but her confession gave police a new timeline to work with. Investigators re-examined security footage from streets near the campus. In one blurry video, they spotted Sarah walking alone, followed by a dark sedan. The car was traced to a man named Robert, who lived near the woods where the backpack was found. Robert had a history of minor offenses, but nothing violent. When police brought him in for questioning, he seemed nervous and evasive. After hours of interrogation, Robert finally confessed. He admitted he'd seen Sarah walking alone and offered her a ride, claiming he wanted to help. But when Sarah realized she didn't know him and tried to get out of the car, he panicked. In his panic, he attacked her. Overcome with guilt and fear, he led police to a remote spot in the woods, where they found Sarah's remains. The news devastated the campus and the entire community. Sarah's family, though heartbroken, expressed gratitude to the police and everyone who had helped in the search. Robert was arrested and charged with kidnapping and murder. The trial was swift, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Sarah's story became a cautionary tale on campus, a reminder of the dangers that can exist even in familiar places. Her friends and family established a scholarship in her name, determined to keep her memory alive and help others in her honor. The campus community came together to support one another, forever changed by the tragedy. But as the shock of Sarah's case began to fade, another story started to circulate on Reddit. One that would leave people questioning how well they really knew the people living right next door. Story 2. The neighbor who wasn't who he seemed. For years, the Johnson family felt lucky to have such a peaceful neighborhood. Their street was lined with old oak trees. Kids played outside until dusk, and everyone knew each other by name. The Johnsons, a family of 4, had lived in their house for nearly a decade. Their next-door neighbor, Mr. Miller, was a quiet, middle-aged man who kept himself but always waved hello. He'd lived there for as long as anyone could remember. Mr. Miller was the kind of neighbor people trusted. He'd help shovel snow in the winter, water plants when someone was on vacation, and even brought over cookies during the holidays. He was polite, soft-spoken, and seemed to have no family of his own. The Johnson kids, Emma and Tyler, sometimes helped him with yard work, and he'd reward them with lemonade and stories about his travels. No one ever questioned Mr. Miller's past. He told people he'd retired early from a government job and enjoyed the quiet life. He drove an old sedan, kept his lawn immaculate, and never caused trouble. If anything, he was a model neighbor. But things started to change one summer. Emma, now a teenager, noticed that Mr. Miller had become more withdrawn. He stopped chatting with neighbors and rarely left his house. His blinds were always closed, and sometimes late at night, Emma would see lights flickering in his basement window. She mentioned it to her parents, but they brushed it off as nothing. Then, strange things began happening in the neighborhood. Packages went missing from porches, and a few cars were broken into. The police were called, but there were no leads. People started locking their doors more carefully, but no one suspected Mr. Miller. He was, after all, the quiet man next door. One evening, Emma was walking home from a friend's house when she saw Mr. Miller struggling with a large, heavy bag in his garage. He looked startled when he noticed her watching and quickly closed the garage door. Emma felt uneasy but convinced herself she was overreacting. A few days later, the Johnsons' dog, Max, went missing. The family searched everywhere, putting up flyers and calling local shelters, but there was no sign of him. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She remembered the strange bag in Mr. Miller's garage and the late-night lights in his basement. One night, unable to sleep, Emma looked out her window and saw Mr. Miller digging in his backyard under the cover of darkness. The next morning, there was a fresh patch of dirt near his fence. Emma told her parents, but they insisted she was letting her imagination run wild. But Emma couldn't let it go. She started watching Mr. Miller's house more closely, jotting down notes about his comings and goings. She noticed he rarely had visitors, but sometimes unfamiliar cars would park outside his house late at night. The drivers never stayed long. Then, one afternoon, the neighborhood was rocked by the sound of sirens. Police cars swarmed Mr. Miller's house, and officers rushed inside with their guns drawn. The Johnsons watched in shock as Mr. Miller was let out in handcuffs, his face pale and expressionless. The entire street was in chaos. No one knew what was happening, and rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Mr. Miller had been caught stealing packages. Others whispered about something much darker. The police wouldn't say anything, only that the investigation was ongoing. Emma's heart pounded as she realized her suspicions had been right all along. But nothing could prepare her or the rest of the neighborhood for the truth about the man they thought they knew so well. The neighborhood buzzed with speculation as police tape surrounded Mr. Miller's house. News vans parked along the street, and reporters tried to interview anyone who would talk. The Johnsons, like everyone else, were desperate for answers. Emma felt a mix of fear and vindication. She'd always sensed something was off, but she never imagined it would be this serious. Over the next few days, details began to emerge. The police had received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity at Mr. Miller's house. When they searched his property, they found evidence linking him to the recent package thefts and car break-ins. But that was just the beginning. In the basement, officers discovered a hidden room behind a false wall. Inside, they found stolen goods, surveillance equipment, and dozens of fake IDs. There were also stacks of cash, passports, and documents in different names. It became clear that Mr. Miller wasn't who he claimed to be. The police revealed that Mr. Miller's real name was not Miller at all. He was a fugitive wanted in several states for fraud, identity theft, and burglary. He had been living under a false identity for years, moving from town to town, whenever things got too risky. The friendly neighbor persona was just a cover. The most disturbing discovery came when police dug up the fresh patch of dirt in Mr. Miller's backyard. There, they found the remains of several animals, including the Johnsons' missing dog, Max. It appeared that Mr. Miller had been killing neighborhood pets for years, a detail that horrified everyone. The community was in shock. People who had trusted Mr. Miller, who had let their children play in his yard and accepted his kindness, now felt betrayed and violated. The Johnsons struggled with guilt for not believing Emma's instincts, and Emma herself was haunted by the thought of how close she had come to danger. Mr. Miller was charged with multiple crimes, including animal cruelty, theft, and fraud. As the investigation continued, more victims came forward from other towns, each with their own stories of the friendly neighbor who turned out to be a criminal. The Johnsons and their neighbors learned a hard lesson about trust and appearances. The experience left a scar on the community, but it also brought them closer together. They became more vigilant, looking out for one another in ways they never had before. As the dust settled and life slowly returned to normal, Emma found herself scrolling through Reddit, reading stories from people who had experienced similar betrayals. One story in particular caught her eye, a chilling account of a relentless stalker who had terrorized a young woman for months. Emma couldn't help but wonder what other secrets were hiding behind closed doors. Story 3. The Stalker Who Wouldn't Stop. For most of her life, Olivia had felt safe in her small town. She was a college student, living with her parents while she saved money for her own place. She worked part-time at a local coffee shop and spent her evenings studying or hanging out with friends. Life was simple, predictable, and comfortable until the messages started. It began with a single text from an unknown number. "You look beautiful today." Olivia thought it was a wrong number or maybe a prank from a friend. She ignored it, but the next day, another message arrived. "I love the way you wear your hair." This time, she felt a chill. The message was specific, and she realized someone had been watching her. She showed the text to her parents, who told her not to worry. Maybe it was just a secret admirer. They said, but Olivia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She started paying more attention to her surroundings, noticing a dark sedan parked across the street from her house more often than before. At work, she caught glimpses of a man she didn't recognize, always sitting in the corner, never ordering anything. The messages continued, growing more personal and unsettling. "I saw you at the library. You look tired. You should get more sleep." Olivia blocked the number, but new ones kept popping up. She changed her social media settings to private, but the messages didn't stop. Whoever it was, they knew her routines, her favorite places, even what she wore each day. One evening, Olivia found a note tucked under her windshield wiper. "You can't hide from me." That night, she heard footsteps outside her window. Her father went outside with a flashlight, but found nothing. The police were called, but with no evidence or suspect. There was little they could do. They advised Olivia to be careful and to document everything. Olivia's anxiety grew. She stopped going out alone, quit her job at the coffee shop, and started carrying pepper spray. Her grades suffered, and she withdrew from her friends. The stalker's presence was suffocating, turning her life into a nightmare. Then, things escalated. One morning, Olivia woke up to find her bedroom window open, even though she was sure she'd locked it the night before. On her desk was a single red rose and a note. "I was here." Olivia's parents were terrified. They installed security cameras around the house and took turns staying up at night to keep watch. The police increased patrols in the neighborhood, but the stalker was always one step ahead. The messages became more threatening. "If I can't have you, no one can." Olivia was living in constant fear, her every move shadowed by someone she couldn't see. One night, while reviewing security footage, Olivia's father spotted a figure lurking near the back door. The image was blurry, but it was clear someone had been there. The police took the footage as evidence, but without a clear face, they still had no leads. Desperate for help, Olivia turned to Reddit, posting her story in hopes that someone might recognize a pattern or offer advice. The response was overwhelming. People from all over shared their own experiences, offered support, and gave tips on how to stay safe. For the first time in months, Olivia felt less alone. But the stalker wasn't finished. One evening, Olivia received a package on her doorstep. Inside was a collection of photos, pictures of her at work, at school, with her friends, even inside her own home. The final photo was of her sleeping in her bed. Olivia's world shattered. She realized the stalker had been inside her house more than once. The fear was paralyzing, and she knew she couldn't go on like this. Something had to change, but she had no idea how far the stalker was willing to go. After receiving the package of photos, Olivia and her parents knew they had to act fast. They packed a few bags and moved into a hotel, hoping to throw the stalker off their trail. The police assigned a detective to the case, and Olivia's story made local news, warning others to be vigilant. The detective advised Olivia to keep a low profile and avoid posting anything online. Meanwhile, the police increased surveillance around her house, hoping to catch the stalker if he returned. Olivia felt trapped, her life on hold, but she was determined not to let fear control her. Days passed with no new messages or sightings. Olivia started to relax, thinking maybe the stalker had given up. But then, late one night, the hotel's front desk called her room. A man claiming to be her brother had asked for her room number. Olivia didn't have a brother. The police were called immediately. Security footage showed a man in a baseball cap and sunglasses loitering in the hotel lobby. He left before officers arrived, but the footage gave them a clear image of his face. The detective recognized him from previous cases. He was a known stalker who had targeted women in other towns. With this new evidence, the police launched a manhunt. They traced the man's car to a nearby motel, where he was arrested without incident. In his room, they found more photos of Olivia, a notebook detailing her daily routines, and a set of keys to her house. He had stolen the keys months earlier and had been entering the house whenever the family was away. The arrest brought a wave of relief to Olivia and her family. The stalker was charged with multiple counts of harassment, breaking and entering, and stalking. He was denied bail and faced a lengthy prison sentence. Olivia slowly began to rebuild her life. She returned to school, reconnected with friends, and started therapy to deal with the trauma. The support she received from the online community helped her heal, and she became an advocate for stalking victims, sharing her story to raise awareness. The experience changed Olivia forever, but also made her stronger. She learned to trust her instincts and never ignore the warning signs. Her story served as a reminder that sometimes the greatest threats come from those who hide in the shadows. As Olivia moved forward, another story began to trend on Reddit. A tale of family secret that would unravel into a shocking crime. The internet was about to be captivated by a mystery that had been buried for decades. And the story 3. Next up, the family secret that ended in murder. Story 4. The family secret that ended in murder. For as long as she could remember, Rachel's family had been close-knit but oddly secretive. She grew up in a small town, surrounded by cousins, aunts, and uncles who gathered for every holiday and birthday. Her grandmother, the family matriarch, ruled over them all with a gentle but firm hand. Yet, there was always a sense that something was being left unsaid, a shadow that lingered over family gatherings. Rachel was in her mid-20s when her grandmother passed away. The funeral brought the entire family together. And as they sorted through her belongings, Rachel stumbled upon a locked wooden box hidden in the back of a closet. The box was old, covered in dust, and sealed with a heavy padlock. No one seemed to know where the key was, and her mother brushed it off as just old papers. But Rachel's curiosity was piqued. Late one night, unable to sleep, Rachel found herself drawn back to the box. She managed to pry it open with a hairpin. Inside, she found a stack of faded letters, photographs, and a small, leather-bound journal. The letters were addressed to her grandmother from a man Rachel had never heard of, someone named Samuel. The photos showed her grandmother as a young woman, standing beside Samuel, both of them smiling, arms around each other. The journal was the most intriguing. It was written in her grandmother's careful handwriting, but the entries were dark and troubled. Rachel read about arguments, secrets, and a terrible event that had torn the family apart decades ago. The final entry was chilling. I can't keep this secret any longer. If anyone ever finds this, please forgive me. Rachel's heart pounded as she realized she was holding the key to a mystery that had haunted her family for years. She decided to confront her mother, who at first denied knowing anything about Samuel. But as Rachel pressed, her mother broke down in tears and confessed that Samuel was her grandmother's first husband, a man who had vanished without a trace when Rachel's mother was just a child. The family had always believed Samuel had abandoned them, but the journal suggested something much darker. Rachel's mother admitted that her grandmother had never spoken about Samuel again after he disappeared. The family had simply moved on, burying the past. Determined to uncover the truth, Rachel began digging into public records and old newspaper archives. She discovered that Samuel had been reported missing in 1972, but the case had gone cold. There were rumors of a violent argument between Samuel and her grandmother the night he disappeared, but no evidence had ever been found. Rachel's investigation led her to an old family friend, Mr. Jenkins, who had lived next door to her grandmother for decades. When Rachel asked about Samuel, Mr. Jenkins grew pale and nervous. He admitted that he'd heard shouting the night Samuel disappeared and had seen her grandmother dragging something heavy into the backyard. He'd always wondered what really happened, but had been too afraid to ask. Rachel's mind raced. Could her beloved grandmother have been involved in Samuel's disappearance? The thought was almost too much to bear. But the more she uncovered, the more convinced she became that her family's secret was darker than anyone had ever imagined. One evening, while searching the backyard of her grandmother's old house, Rachel found a patch of earth that looked different from the rest. The soil was looser, as if it had been disturbed. Her hands shook as she began to dig, uncovering a rusted metal box buried just beneath the surface. Inside the box were more letters, a wedding ring, and a blood-stained handkerchief. The evidence was overwhelming. Rachel knew she had to take what she'd found to the police, even if it meant destroying her family's reputation. As the police began their investigation, Rachel waited anxiously, knowing that the truth was about to come out, and that her family would never be the same. The police took Rachel's findings seriously. The letters, the ring, and the blood-stained handkerchief were enough to reopen the decades-old missing person case. Forensic teams searched the backyard, and within days, they made a grim discovery. Human remains buried deep beneath the old oak tree. Dental records confirmed what Rachel had feared. Samuel had been there all along. The news sent shockwaves to the family and the entire town. Reporters camped outside the house, and neighbors whispered about the dark secret that had been hidden in plain sight for so many years. Rachel's mother was devastated, struggling to reconcile the loving woman she'd known with the possibility that her own mother had committed murder. As the investigation unfolded, the police pieced together the events of that fateful night in 1972. According to the journal and the letters, Samuel and Rachel's grandmother had a violent argument over money and infidelity. In a fit of rage, Samuel had attacked her, and in self-defense, she struck him with a heavy object. Realizing what she'd done, she panicked and buried his body in the backyard, swearing never to speak of it again. The police ruled Samuel's death a case of manslaughter, committed in self-defense. But the years of secrecy and the decision to hide the body weighed heavily on the family. Rachel's mother struggled with feelings of betrayal and grief, while Rachel herself felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. The truth had finally come out, but at a terrible cost. The family gathered for a private memorial for Samuel, laying his memory to rest at last. The experience brought them closer together, forcing them to confront the pain and secrets that had haunted them for generations. Rachel's courage in seeking the truth was praised by some and criticized by others, but she knew she had done the right thing. In the months that followed, Rachel became fascinated by other family mysteries and unsolved crimes. She spent hours on Reddit, reading stories from people who had uncovered their own dark secrets. One story, in particular, caught her attention. A chilling account of a teenager who befriended someone online, only to discover that her new friend was hiding a dangerous secret. Rachel realized that every family, every person, has secrets. Some are harmless, but others can change lives forever. As she closed a chapter on her own family's tragedy, she found herself drawn to the next mystery, eager to learn what other truths were waiting to be uncovered. End of story 4. Next up, the online friend who turned out to be a predator. Story 5. The online friend who turned out to be a predator. For 16-year-old Lily, the internet was a place of escape. She was shy at school, struggled to make friends, and often felt misunderstood by her family. Online, though, she could be herself. She joined forums about her favorite books and games, and that's where she met Alex. Alex was funny, supportive, and seemed to understand Lily better than anyone else. They chatted for hours every day, sharing secrets, dreams, and frustrations. Alex claimed to be 17, lived in a nearby city, and even sent photos, always a little blurry, but believable enough. Over time, their friendship deepened. Lily confided in Alex about her struggles at school, her parents' divorce, and her hopes for the future. Alex always knew the right thing to say. After months of chatting, Alex suggested a video call. Lily was nervous, but Alex said his webcam was broken. He promised to get a new one soon. Instead, they kept texting and sometimes talked on the phone, though Alex's voice always sounded a bit older than 17. Lily brushed it off, grateful to have someone who cared. As their friendship grew, Alex started sending Lily small gifts, stickers, a book she'd mentioned, even a necklace for her birthday. He always seemed to know what she needed, and Lily felt special. But Alex also became more possessive. He wanted to know where she was, who she was with, and what she was doing at all times. If Lily didn't reply quickly, Alex would get upset, sending dozens of messages until she responded. Lily's parents noticed she was spending more time online and seemed withdrawn. They asked about her new friend, but Lily insisted Alex was just someone from a book forum. She didn't want to lose the only person who seemed to understand her. One day, Alex suggested they meet in person. He said he'd be in Lily's town for a family event and wanted to finally see her. Lily was excited, but also nervous. She agreed to meet at a local park, telling her parents she was going to study with friends. When the day arrived, Lily waited on a bench, her heart pounding. She texted Alex, who said he was running late. After half an hour, a man in his 30s approached her, claiming to be Alex's older brother. He said Alex had been delayed and sent him to pick her up. Lily hesitated, feeling uneasy, but the man insisted, showing her a photo of Alex on his phone. Something didn't feel right. Lily made an excuse and quickly left the park, her mind racing. She texted Alex, who immediately replied, apologizing and saying his brother was just trying to help. But Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That night, she told her parents everything. They were shocked and immediately contacted the police. Officers took Lily's phone and began investigating Alex's identity. What they discovered was more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Alex wasn't a teenager at all. He was a 38-year-old man named Mark, with a history of online grooming and predatory behavior. The gifts, the photos, even the phone calls had all been part of an elaborate scheme to gain Lily's trust. The man at the park was Mark himself, using a fake story to lure Lily away. The police moved quickly, tracking Mark's online activity and gathering evidence. They warned Lily and her family to be vigilant, as Mark was still at large. Lily was terrified, realizing how close she had come to real danger. After the police revealed Mark's true identity, Lily's world turned upside down. She felt betrayed, scared, and ashamed for trusting someone who had lied about everything. Her parents were supportive but shaken, realizing how easily their daughter had been targeted. The police launched a full investigation, working with cybercrime experts to trace Mark's online footprints. They discovered he had used multiple fake profiles to contact other teenagers, some of whom had also received gifts and messages. Mark was skilled at hiding his tracks, but the evidence was mounting. Lily and her family were placed under police protection. Officers monitored their home, and Lily was advised to stay offline and avoid public places. The community rallied around her, offering support and sharing warnings about online predators. Local news stations covered the story, urging parents to talk to their children about internet safety. For weeks, Mark remained at large. The fear was constant. Every unknown car, every knock at the door sent Lily's heart racing. She struggled with guilt, wondering if she had done something wrong, but her therapist reassured her that the blame lay solely with Mark. Finally, after a month-long search, police tracked Mark to a motel 2 towns away. He was arrested without incident, and his computer was seized as evidence. Investigators found hundreds of messages, photos, and chat logs from other victims. Mark was charged with multiple counts of child exploitation, attempted abduction, and online harassment. The relief was overwhelming. Lily and her family could finally breathe again, though the scars of the experience would take time to heal. Lily returned to school, started therapy, and began speaking out about her experience. She wanted other teens to know the dangers of online friendships and the importance of trusting their instincts. The case made national headlines, sparking conversations about internet safety and the need for better protections for young people online. Lily's courage in coming forward helped other victims find their voices, and her story became a warning for families everywhere. As Lily moved forward, she found strength in her family, friends, and the community that had supported her. She learned to be cautious, but refused to let fear control her life. Her experience became a turning point, not just for her, but for everyone who heard her story. And as the dust settled, Reddit users continued to share their own stories. Some heartbreaking, some inspiring, all a reminder of the power and danger of connections we make online. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life mysteries.